We all crave freedom, right? The chance to soar, to reach our absolute greatest potential. But what if the very things we see as holding us back are actually the only things keeping us in the air? Today, we're going to explore that exact paradox through a really powerful story, the parable of the kite.
So our story kicks off with an act of creation. Picture this, a carpenter carefully crafting a beautiful, vibrant kite, a thing literally made for the sky. But his work doesn't stop there. He tethers it to a strong, protective spool. And this isn't meant to be a restraint, it's a connection, a lifeline.
And this brings us right into our first act, creation and defiance. Right from the get-go, we see the central conflict of the story just take shape. It's this deep and honestly dangerous misunderstanding between the kite and the one who made it. And here's the heart of the problem. It all comes down to two totally different points of view. The kite, looking up at the endless sky, sees that string as nothing but a hated shackle. But the carpenter, who actually understands how wind and flight work, knows it's a vital connection. The very thing the kite hates is the only thing allowing it to fly in the first place. Well, this misunderstanding doesn't just stay a misunderstanding for long. It escalates fast into open rebellion. In this desperate attempt to break free, the kite just thrashes against the string. But its defiance doesn't bring freedom. All it does is cause pain, sending its own creator tumbling into a thicket of thorns.
This is a classic tale of rebellion, one you've probably seen before in stories like Pinocchio. The puppet's famous cry for "no strings on me" is really a cry for a kind of freedom he just doesn't understand. And what happens? It only brings pain to his creator, Geppetto. By rejecting that guiding hand, both the puppet and our kite here begin the exact same dangerous, unsteady fall.
And that leads us right into Act 2, Slave to the Storm. The kite, totally convinced it knows best, is about to make a huge, fateful decision, and we're about to see the real price of this so-called unguided freedom.
So, from its limited point of view, the kite spots a storm brewing in the distance. But it doesn't see chaos, it sees power. It actually mistakes those violent, turbulent winds for an opportunity, like a shortcut straight to the sun. And in one final, irreversible act of defiance, it severs its own string. It cuts the connection for good.
And just like that, in a single moment, the connection is severed. Suddenly, it's not the master of the air anymore. It's a victim, just completely tossed about by winds it has no control over.
The very winds it trusted to lift it higher are now the things tearing it apart, leaving it completely tattered.
So the kite got exactly what it wanted, freedom from the string. But in doing so, it lost its entire purpose. It wasn't even a kite anymore, just a piece of debris.
This catastrophic fall from the sky, well, it leads us to the story's absolute lowest point, our third act, buried in the swamp. And it's here that the kite has to face the full crushing weight of its choice.
So after being thrashed and torn by the storm, the kite's journey comes to a crashing halt. It plummets out of the sky and lands in this disgusting, stagnant swamp. Its vibrant silk, once designed to catch the wind, now just soaks up mud and filth until it's so heavy and dirty it's completely unrecognizable.
So, this is the freedom the kite fought so hard for. It traded what it saw as the prison of a single string for the very real, very permanent prison of the swamp.
Okay, so here's the central paradox, right? The kite is finally completely free from the carpenter. It has exactly what it thought it wanted. But it has zero agency, zero ability to move, to fly, to do anything. So why is that? And it's here, stuck in the mud, that the kite finally gets it. The string was never a restriction. It was the source of its power. The tension from that string is what allowed it to fight the wind and soar. The fall, that wasn't the carpenter's fault. It was all caused by the kite's own profound misunderstanding of what it actually means to be free.
But the story doesn't end there. Buried in the swamp. And this brings us to our final act, redemption and true flight. This is the moment where we see that downward spiral finally begin to reverse.
The carpenter, the very one who was injured by the kite's rebellion, wades through the thorns into the swamp to find his broken creation. And he doesn't punish it, he doesn't scold it. Instead, he just begins the slow, painstaking work of cleaning away all that filth and mending its broken frame.
Through this act of pure grace, the kite finally understands. Its real purpose, its ability to achieve true flight, was never going to come from rebellion. It could only be found in a partnership, a harmonious cooperation with the one who made it in the first place.
So the kite's entire journey really boils down to these 3 steps. First, it makes a huge mistake. It confuses license, the freedom to just do whatever, with true liberty. Second, the big realization, hitting rock bottom and finally acknowledging it needs guidance. And third, the ascent, finding true flight not by breaking its connection, but by embracing it.
And that, right there, brings us to the very heart of this parable. That string is so much more than just a string. It's structure, it's guidance, it's morality, it's education, it's all the things that give our freedom meaning and direction. Because without that connection, any ascent, no matter how high it seems, is really just a prelude to a fall.